Oh, okay. Got it. Welcome, welcome to Chicago IANDS, everyone. Uh, it's a beautiful day here in Chicago, too beautiful. So I imagine a lot of people out enjoying it because it will be probably a while before we'll have such beautiful weather again. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. I can see blue sky out my kitchen window, and you're all welcome here today. We're going to take just a minute and do our brief meditation that we usually do at the beginning with native flute. That was one of the things that was given to me after my experience in 1995. So if you have things on your lap, you might want to put them to the side and get yourself in a relaxed position and get yourself comfortable so that you can just kind of go with the flow here. I don't know what happened. Goodbye. Well, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm connected or what.
I can hear you, a little extra divine participation. So if you
What
want
I
to
have on my
continue.
computer screen is the blank Zoom screen. It's just all white with says Zoom in the middle.
We
I,
are dealing with some very high frequency energies. So
I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to get back.
We can see and hear you just fine, though, Diane, just so you know.
Pardon?
We can see and hear you just fine, just so you know.
That's interesting. If you could just see what I see. I'm now seeing the Zoom blue rectangle with the sign on top that says join a meeting. Oh, there we go. I got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, welcome back. That was a little excitement. Well, we've got a lot of interesting things going on in the world, all over the world, including on our Zoom screens. So, um, at any rate, this is a very interesting time, and there's never been a time, I don't think, when healing is more in order and access to healing is especially appreciated. So we've been very blessed. We had Russell Fox last month, and we have Ayleyaell Kinder today. Ayleyaell has spoken for us before, and I gave pretty much of her bio, and she's going to talk about that too. So I'm not going to go into a long session there, except to say I've known her, I don't know, about 30 years, I think, and it's been a very pleasant, at a distance friendship. I don't see her very often, but I'm really glad she could join us again today. So I'm going to, quickly before that, if you haven't donated recently, now's a good time to do it. It's December and you can deduct it from your income tax. And we aren't taking in very much money, not enough to cover our expenses. So anything is greatly appreciated. So you can do that by going to our website and going to donate, and it tells you the possibilities and how to do it. So thank you very much. And I also wanted to mention that next month in January in 2024, our guest speaker will be Jean Steen. And Jean is a unique healer in her own right. She does different modalities. I hope you'll read about her and join us then. But now I'm going to turn it over to Ayleyaell. Thank you, Ayleyaell, for your patience. And welcome, everybody, and welcome, Ayleyaell. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Diane. Goodness, it feels like 30 years, and I thought it was, but I went back and looked at when I spoke last with IANDS, and it was only 13 years ago.
But
I
I knew
was
you
living
a
in
while I knew you a while before you came to speak to IANDS, I believe.
just a few months. I met you when IANDS had a meeting in San Diego, one of their international conferences,
That is
and
okay.
yeah,
So
and my office was very close to where the conference was being held.
yes.
Beverly, who coordinates for San Diego, was one of my clients, and she said there's going to be a healing day right before the conference. Would you like to participate? I said, sure. And so she signed me up, and then I found out what I was in for, in that people could pick and choose who they wanted to be with. Everybody would be in the same room, very large, almost a ballroom space. And we'd have, I think it was either 15 or 20 minutes. So I realized in those 15, 20 minutes, I would need to connect with the whole of the person, determine where I could assist, have them on the table, do that work, put them back together, because this work opens one up, and all in that 15 minutes. So for a lot of the people, as they began to be in touch with their material and feel lighter, I suggested that they come for a longer session. So I didn't attend any of the conference. I was busy facilitating SHEN sessions with something like 15 or 20 people.
Wow.
But that was when you proposed, would I like to come to Chicago and speak with the group?
Oh,
So that's how it started.
okay.
So,
Thank you. Oh,
uh, so
we have a refresher there.
well, in contemplating what to say was not so much what a message from me, it was a listening. What is it that could help this group and all of humanity at this time? So there was so much high frequency material pouring through that I was still writing and putting things together up to about a half an hour before the presentation. I'll start at the beginning. My name is Ayleyaell Kinder. That's not the name I was born with, but that's a whole nother story, which we won't go into. Um, and I'm 70 years young as of June. So I was been very honored to be taught by and mentored by a lot of very wonderful people, some of whom are now famous, some of whom are in spirit. Um, And I was born to a mother who was also had near-death experiences and has lectured for IANDS. She's now passed into spirit, but very much is present since healing was something she loved to do. My dad was a psychologist. So as a kid, I couldn't get away with anything. My mother would do the scientific, she was also an RN, and dad would do the psychology. And it didn't matter because my first near-death experience was at birth. As a matter of fact, one of my teachers said, in your first 24 hours, you acquired all of the necessary karma that your soul came into to process for the rest of your life. And I went, okay. So I have relived what my birthing experience was like. And and that was on the SHEN table and in meditation. And I saw how I set up my life both to learn how to connect and to listen and to realize the extreme isolation and suffering that a lot of people go through when they are incarnate and what they do to compensate. In my case, my compensation was to go numb, and I didn't realize it. I was very smart, very intellectual. I had an eidetic memory, a photographic memory, so school was a breeze, and I did A's and got scholarships. And it took a lot of humbling, which I'll get into in a moment. So the way that I'm going to set up this particular time that we have together is I'm going to give a little bit of a history. Then I have two healing demonstrations that I'm happy to give, and they're co-creative. So as we get into it, you have the option to follow my suggestions. I haven't practiced it in years and years, but I am certified in hypnotherapy. So I often say, these are only suggestions. You're free to ignore them or do something else that you feel called to do. There'll be a place for question and answer. I'm working from a cell phone, so you can either raise your hand or write it in the chat, and then Diane or Vicky, when we get to question and answer, will answer the questions. If it's in the middle of a presentation of information, feel free to ask a question as well. In a meditation, the question and answer period would be after that or towards the end. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying I'm very proud to be a colleague of Russell Fox, who started off as my first SHEN teacher back in 1995. I'll get into that. That was following a car accident, the second NDE. I would recommend highly that everybody who didn't hear Russ speak last month go back and listen to his tape. He was kind enough to send me his PowerPoint, but the way that he presented it has animations and he knows it inside and out. And I realized that his PowerPoint was put together in a way that he could teach it, and it wasn't really the way that I would teach. So that plan went out the window. I still recommend going back and listening to it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit more of my history. So in high school, I came back from my first year of college to find both parents doing very strange looking exercises to me. And they had joined something called Eureka Institute. So if people are familiar with Eureka, I don't know. That was what brought me to the Midwest eventually. And they did have a center in Chicago for a while, as well as one in Milwaukee. Eureka was an experimental school, and it was an experiment for conscious evolution. And it was founded by a group of mystics and practical mystics whose lineage is traced way back into antiquity. And this group would meet every couple of, I don't know, years, every 10 years, something like that. And one of the people there was a man in Bolivia named Oscar Ichazo, another mystic who was a martial artist and a lot. You can look him up. So in Eureka, when this group of heads of mystical schools got together, and this was in the very early 70s. I joined Eureka in 1973, still as a teenager, and right after the first year of college. But they got together and they compared notes, which is what they would do throughout all the times they were meeting. In those notes, they said a crisis is coming, and that if humanity doesn't wake up, the whole planet is going to go. So what can we do about it? And they put their notes together and said, let's see if we can teach people to evolve consciously. Okay. So at 19, I entered the Eureka School. There's a whole long history before that, but a little bit too much to go into with all that I have planned. And the very first day they taught axioms. And one of the axioms was consciousness could be awake or it could be asleep. And consciousness that's asleep can look to the eyes like somebody is here and present, but it's asleep. And those sentences stayed in me for years and began to awaken as I continued both what I had learned from Eureka and the further experiences that I had. I definitely wanted to presence Eureka. And that was 50 years ago. I pulled out my old notebook, 2/12/73 was when I had entered the Eureka Institute. Okay, so that led me all over. I became a teacher of Eureka. I went to the Milwaukee Teaching House, which was my experience of the Midwest. Back then, so at any rate, a woman named Alana Rubenfeld came through to one of the holistic centers. And at the time, I was earning my living as a massage therapist. And I watched Alana work, and I said, she is getting 10 times my results and working 1/10 as hard. I want to study with her. I didn't know that she was planning to teach her very first group. And she did it by having 2 people shadow her through all of her presentations. One person noted everything she said, another person noted everything that she did. And then she got together, meditated, put things together, and said, okay, I think I can teach that. Alana was the first woman composer to go to Juilliard. And back then, you didn't have the kind of, well, I get it was years before that. So let's say maybe the 50s or 60s. And she noticed when she was conducting hours spending her hands in the air that she developed back spasms. And so they recommended she go to an Alexander teacher. And the Alexander teacher would work with her and the pain would subside. And at one point, emotions started to come up. And the teacher took her hands off, and she's not trained to work with emotions. So Alana then, every time she'd go back, emotions would come up. And finally, the teacher said, I think you should go to somebody who can help you. And that was a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm not sure which. So she would go to the psychologist and talk. The psychologist wouldn't touch her. And then she'd go to the Alexander teacher who would touch her, but wouldn't talk. And she tells it in a very humorous way, traveling back and forth to through New York City. And somewhere in Central Park, she said, isn't there anybody who does both of these? And there wasn't. So that's when she began her school of what's now called Rubenfeld Synergy. So what I learned from Alana was to touch with a listening hand. At that time, and actually all the way through up until now, a lot of body workers touch with the idea to do something to you, to free the fascia tissue, to move the lymph, things like that. But very seldom do they put on a hand that listens, that says, hello, what's going on? And that began to bring in information. So I moved from where I was living back to New York and then to San Diego, where I stayed for 26 years. And in San Diego, I had a second near-death experience, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I had a house and a roommate, and the roommate was working with a group that was called the Temple Beautiful, that was sponsored by the Ascended Masters. Now, this was all new to me, and yet it wasn't, because my experiences in Eureka had some mystical experiences as well. So I was accepted into their school, and I had a very big test. How much do I want to go into that? Not so much. Essentially, two important, well, a lot of things happened in there, but there were two that I want to presence. And one was a car accident that happened before SHEN therapy led me into SHEN therapy. A car accident, I was at a red light, and an ambulance was going through the red light intersection with its sirens flashing, and I was rear-ended. And my car was demolished. I had a plaster statue of Mother Mary that I was delivering. I was knocked out and semi-paralyzed through half my body. The plastic statue, which was right behind, plaster statue, hand painted, was maybe 2.5, 3 feet long, was in the rear seat. Perfect, not a scratch. The whole car was compressed. I was a mess. The statue was fine. So in the process of healing, I was having panic attacks, and I didn't tell anybody about them. And I would crawl, I would be in a meeting, and I would crawl under the table so I could just shake and panic. And I would talk to myself. I would say, these people are good-hearted. They're fine. They're wonderful. Nothing to be afraid of. You know, there's not an earthquake happening. There's no bull charging in on you. You're fine. And I would still be in this panic attack until it would subside. So I was led to SHEN therapy and also flower essences at that time. And in SHEN therapy, I discovered that at birth, and again, part of the near-death experience, before I went unconscious as a newborn, I was hauled out of mom, who was anesthetized, and all of these good-hearted people had no idea that the way they were handling me was torture. And that went into my field, which we'll talk about in a little bit, my biofield, into my body. And it had been keeping me numb through my life up until now. And one of the axioms is, as you bring in more light, it will bring your blockages and your negative experiences up for the purpose of healing. So on the SHEN table, I relived that. Before that particular awareness, which came a couple of sessions in, I would be walking through a health food store. Well, actually, I had dreams, and the dreams were of grass that was waving. And I would go, what? What do you want me to do with this, God? Do you want me to smoke marijuana? I'm not into that. What's going on? And so I walked through a health food store, and I saw what looked like a skyscraper display of flower essences, and one of them was glowing, and it was called Quaking Grass. And right next to the display was this book. I've gone on to study with the people who wrote it, but in there, it talked about quaking grass would help with fears of being around people. And I'm okay. Took a couple of drops of that, got on the SHEN table, and that's when I had that pivotal experience, which then began to free up and make my whole life and my way of being and interacting made sense. So that was the start of flower essences. And at the time, I had a client who was a Sai Baba devotee, and I was also working with the masters. And in 2000, there was the opportunity to study with the Flower Essence Society or go to India and meet Sai Baba, who was alive at that time, who was incarnated at the time. And so I was in his sanctuary, his group, and I was meditating. I said, okay, Sai Baba, shall I go to see you, or shall I go study with the flowers? He said, you can see me everywhere. The answer came in, you can see me in the flowers. So I began to study the flower essences back then. So the other significant thing that happened while I was with the Temple Beautiful was on a retreat. The person who was channeled Lord Hilarion, and there's a whole long history, but he serves on a green emerald ray of healing. And one of the things that really validated the Temple Beautiful for me was that I would meditate and I would hear some instruction or some kind of an intuition. And then I would go into the class and the teacher would pick up right from where my meditation had left off. And then if I went to a channeling, whoever was channeled would pick up right where the teacher left off or right where I had finished meditating. And it didn't take too many of those experiences or some miracles that I witnessed with my eyes to recognize that this was a valid vortex. At the time, also, I was studying with a temple-trained Taoist monk named Sifu Sher Kelu, and he was the one who finally helped me coordinate my physical body, which was coming out of numbness, with healing and with an understanding that the best place was not to believe anything or disbelieve anything, but to observe and feel, and that what was truth would eventually make itself known. Okay, so that's a little bit about that part. There was two other things to okay, so this will come in handy later. When Lord Hilarion was channeled in that experience, he gave the people who were listening individual empowerments, individual gifts. And he said to me that water is alive and that from here on in, I could put healing into water. That was the empowerment he was giving me. And I said, thank you very much. I had no idea what that meant. Now I do. Okay. So I'm going to pause here and begin with the first slide. But before you put that up, Vicki, I'm going to pause and see if anybody has any requests or any questions, since I've been just chattering on. I expect questions will come after the demonstration, but I thought I would pause for any. Okay. When I was looking at what would be most beneficial for the group, I remembered what it was like 13 years ago when I started to work with people who were members of the IANDS. And I expected that with experiencing near death, that there'd be a lot of trauma held at the place where impending annihilation and mortal terror is. And there was none of that in you guys. For me, there was a lot, because in my birth, there was that impending annihilation, and that looked like mom was dead because she was unconscious, and I was isolated, et cetera, et cetera. But when I worked with you guys, none of that, and I was surprised. And instead, most of if I had to theme things, it was with fears of being seen. It was with, and that's a different place than mortal terror. And it was heart issues. How can it how can it be that I can share this in a way that people understand me? So it was all torso based rather than at the different places where I would expect things to be. So when I was meditating, two things came to mind. One is to talk about Tao calligraphy, which is a transformative art. And I have a very brief video. Video is about 5 minutes. We're not going to play it all, just the first two parts that will demonstrate that. But I want to explain about Tao calligraphy. After Sifu passed, one of my clients asked me, well, first of all, she sent me books about this Chinese master, and I said, that's very nice, put them on the to read pile. Then she said, he's going to give a workshop in Hawaii, and I don't want to go alone. If I paid for you, would you come with me? And I said, sure. And the moment I saw this particular master's name is Jigong Shah, and he has a Western MD. He's also a master of Chinese medicine, a Qigong master. He's been on the New York Sellers bestseller list. He's written, I'm not sure how many books, but I know several of them have been on the New York Times list. And all I had to do was watch him, and I could feel that he was authentically a Taoist master. Very grateful to having met him. In working with that client who had offered to take me to Hawaii, ended up being in 2015. And she ended up by buying a house in Nevada and saying, look, I can't go to the workshop now, but I'll pay for you to come out and give me a SHEN intensive. And also the workshop is being webcast, so we can both watch it. So in between giving her the sessions, watching this webcast is when I first met Master Shah. If you put up the first slide, Vicki. There, whoops, it's around there somewhere. It's that very first slide. We're seeing the all of the slides together now, Vicki. At least that's what I'm seeing. Can you put up the black and white one that's all the way close to where the menu is?
And it should be up.
Well, I'm seeing the whole slideshow rather than just a single slide, and it's a little too small to make out.
Yeah, it's the whole desktop. All of the slides are visible.
But can you see this, the big one now?
Yeah. No, we're still seeing the whole desktop, or rather all the slides. They're laid out horizontally.
Hang on, I apologize.
Slide 1 is checked.
Yeah, it should be up. It's up on my screen.
Okay, all right, I'll describe it and then we'll go into the video. On one side, I don't know if you can enlarge it or not, is the way a Chinese character is usually written. It's a number of different strokes, and it's the character for love. All right. On the other side is what's called Ibitzi. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's a oneness writing that Master Shah is a direct lineage holder. He studied with a woman who was 103 when he began. No, she was over 100. And I know she lived to at least 103 and then named him in a ceremony his lineage holder. So the oneness writing is, instead of making all of those little lines, everything is done in one straight line. And I've studied it, but I'm not a calligraphy master. There are calligraphy masters that he has trained. Dr. Rulin Shu is one of them, and I'll be talking about her a little bit later. So basically that's the oneness writing. Master Shah transformed it into transformative art. And by that he means that in relating with it, looking at it, moving with it, inhaling it, it opens up a portal that he describes, and he has a number of people who have open third eyes describing heaven's angels and generals and teams pouring through to help you with what you request. So in the drawing of it, when you're studying it, one of the classes is you try and replicate the particular, guess you would say, particular character. And so what you're going to see, he's going to talk a little bit about that. But what you're going to see is a woman before, and then she draws the character, but she doesn't draw it completely accurately. And so there's a certain proportion things are. Different parts of the character can represent parts of your body so that the master teacher knows exactly where to work. And so in this case, the master teacher goes and corrects the art. And then what happens is what a lot of people would call miracles. So the first bit of the first 2 or 3 minutes is Master Shaw himself talking about this, and then we go right into the demo. So if you could play that, Vicky, the video.
I'm gonna start.
Hopefully.
If you bear with me, I apologize. I think that when I shared the screen, I just shared this, so please bear with me for 2 seconds. I'm so sorry, everyone.
All right, so while we're waiting, let yourself become comfortable in however you're at the computer. See if your shoulders are up, let them relax. And very importantly, become aware of your breath. So notice as you inhale what the air feels like. Is it cooler than your body? Is it the same temperature, warm temperature? And as you breathe, imagine that breath. Okay, there we go.
Are you ready?
Yep. We do need the sound on it. There we go. Perfect. Except there we go. Sound.
This is a da. And everybody watch. This is 1, 2, 3. Watch here. 1 is writing. We connect with the 3. This is heng. This is heng. Pierre go this way. Pierre. Pierre. Now, like ABC. ABCD. 1 word. 1 letter. Therefore, heng. If you write like this, your information showed in a calligraphy. Tao calligraphy is the healing art. It's the art beyond the art because it brings the Tao power within. We all can learn this. That's the purpose I teach Tao calligraphy. Otherwise, even art people love it. But it's a modern art. When you learn this how to write, you are healing yourself. As Cecilia doing correction, correct Patrick Mother's watch. Just correct, correct writing, correct your message, just like this. She said, your body little respond. This is just such a short time. Everybody watch. This is a real story. Everybody's so shocked. Watch. Okay. That is what it's hard to believe. Cecilia has done many cases like this. Even the people, one side leg, 1 leg long, 1 leg short, spinal column. Good.
Okay, so we could stop it here.
With my pain,
Okay. So the visual was a little choppy. If you watch the original YouTube, it isn't choppy at all, and you can actually see the way the movement of Patrick's mom was before. Her after seemed pretty clear. One of the things that I'll make sure is my email, and I'm preparing a follow-up email which will have links to some of the things I'm going to talk about if you're interested. Okay, Sharon, happy holidays to you. The frequency of the biofield surrounding me is really high. If you were here at the beginning, the technologically, all of a sudden, Diane playing her flute beautifully was surrounded by white light and some interesting phenomena. If that happens, great. But one of the things that I notice is that if you're feeling heavy, let yourself drink some water and inhale. Even if you fall asleep, you're going to feel the field and the healing that's going to happen. And if you need to stop and do something else, the video will be available. And one of the things that I asked for was that all the healing that happens can also happen in watching this video, but it will only happen once. So if you come and watch it 2 or 3 times, you're not going to get 2 or 3 healings. Okay. All right, so how are we doing with that first slide, which actually just is a close-up of the Ibitsi writing? The next is a meditation. Are you able to put up that MP4 and hold on putting it up for a moment? And I'm going to describe, I'm going to guide you into a meditation, into yourself. And while you're in yourself, you already might know or you might not, but discover one thing that you would like to heal, whether it be a physical organ, a medical condition, a whole organ system, whether it be a relationship or a business, something related to business, whether it be your finances. So as I lead you through this, pick an area, and then we're going to actually use a transformative art. If it can come up on the screen, and if it can't, I have a very powerful piece of calligraphy here. There's another one in back of me that I will trace for you in that meditation. So before we do the meditation, let me find out, Vicki, if you're able to put up that MP. Perfect. And will it actually move? Perfect. Okay, so we'll pause on that. All right. So would you again find a comfortable place? Sitting is best, with your feet on the floor and with your spine free. If you need your back supported, that's fine. If you can move away from the back of a chair or the back of a wall, that would be even better. And it'll work either way. Okay. So through various civilizations, where in the position of our hands carry information to ourselves. In India, they're called mudras. So I'm going to recommend one of 2. You can choose either one, or you can just put your hands where they feel comfortable. So the first one is called a yin-yang palm, where you take your right hand and you wrap it around the thumb of your left, and then you gently close them. You let the palms fall, the hand fall naturally, and have the middle of the right hand over your belly button, with the left palm soft and just slightly below the belly button. So that's one. The yin-yang palm can also be placed at your lower abdomen. The second one is to put the center of your right palm over your belly button and the left palm over your heart, or wherever you have pain. There's one thing that we found is that wherever you put your hands, that is where healing will occur. We'll talk a little bit more about the heart. Essentially, it's like a message center, and it receives information. Okay, so find a place where your hands are comfortable, where they feel right, and begin to notice your breath. And let yourself inhale into your torso, deep, and feel your torso expanding. And especially feel your spine expanding. As you inhale, the whole spine, all of your skeletal system expands, because it really does. Every part of you is alive and breathes. And let yourself exhale and inhale. And now as you inhale, imagine and feel golden light being breathed into your body. And that golden light goes all the way down to your lower abdomen, and it stays there when you exhale. And with each inhale, that golden light begins to filling your pelvis, hip bone to hip bone and skin to bone, and flowing all the way down your legs into your feet and through the soles of your feet into Mother Earth. So you're inhaling golden light. The golden light is staying in your body, and you're connecting as the golden light fills your body all the way down into the earth. And as you continue to breathe, imagine that golden light is also entering through your crown at the top of your head. And as you're inhaling and exhaling, that golden light flows through your facial features and your scalp. And as you exhale, the golden light stays. And that golden light continues through your jaw, throat, and through your collarbone, arms, and hands, and into your chest, where it joins with the heart. And breathing that golden light into your heart. And the golden light now expands from the pelvis and moves up through all the organs of digestion until it too joins as one in the heart. So your whole body is now golden light. And let your awareness move into your heart. And ask yourself, what is the area? What is one area that could use improvement? And if you don't get an answer, you can pick one yourself, pick an area. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How, which means well done, it's perfect. And let yourself become more aware of the room, and then open your eyes. Okay. Is there anybody who didn't get a particular area to work with? Okay. Next part of the meditation is going to be working with that calligraphy that's on the screen. It's called Da'ai, which means the greatest love. And there's a little illustration of the way that calligraphy is traced. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can trace. You can trace with your whole body and doing a Tai Chi. But the easiest way to begin as you are starting this is to put the fingers of and have them touch the thumb very lightly. What that does, the Chinese have mapped out the energy flows in the body, calling them meridians in traditional Chinese medicine. And all of the meridians end in the fingers of both hands and also the toes. So when you put your fingers together, you're uniting all of the meridians. You're also uniting all of the elements. So when you trace, you can trace this way. So if you put on the actual little ball, Vicky. There we go. All right. So, here it is. A second, I have something to. Okay. So, dear the universe, dear Tao, Source, Mother, Father, God, whoever is your deity, Buddha, the saints. We love you. We honor you. We appreciate you. And dear the soul, energy, and matter, Shen Shi Jing in Chinese, of the Tao I, Tao calligraphy, would you please help me manifest the healing in this one area that I'm asking for? Could you please help me be aware of my blockages and help me let go of them? Thank you. And so as you trace, continue to breathe, and you can say the words greatest love or the words Da'ai, which is the Chinese for this particular character. And while you're tracing that, I may sound a little bit, but I'm going to trace my original calligraphy, which was created just to help me help others. I'm tracing one of greatest light. So we'll do that for a minute or so, a couple of minutes, not very long. So begin, let yourself breathe, and trace the Da'ai. Da'ai, 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 melt all blockages as appropriate. Da'ai, 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 Da'ai. Greatest love, unconditional love, melts all blockages as appropriate. And then I'm doing silently the we chant out loud and we chant silently for a bit. So continue to trace and allow yourself to notice the sensations in your body as you're tracing. Observe them, allow them, and feel them. Ah. 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 Om. Meditation and blessing complete. With your next breath, feel your feet on the floor and come back into the room. Okay, you can take the screen off now. Thanks, Vicki. Would anyone like to share their experience? So, Vicki, this is the second time you've had a similar experience. Anything you'd like to share?
I think Craig had his hand up. Did you have your hand up, Craig?
I did.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, Craig.
So it took a while, but all of a sudden I started feeling a flow,
Nice.
almost like dance.
Uh-huh.
It's like my whole body felt like I just wanted to move, and it was a dance. It was very, very pleasant.
Beautiful and very intuitive of you, because another way to practice is literally to put your hands like Tai Chi and trace it. So when it goes down, you bend your knees and across.
Yeah,
And so you're
yeah,
actually standing up and dancing with it. And that
yeah.
is
That's
another
what
way
it
to
felt like. My
practice.
body was flowing like in dance, like
Yes,
Tai Chi, or not like hip hop, something much more flowing and graceful.
exactly right. Um, there is a Tao Academy that teaches Tao hands, how to heal through your hands. I'm a advanced Tao hands practitioner. They also have a Tao song. I gave a little bit of Tao song. They also have a Tao dance section where you can actually heal by moving and dancing. And then Tao calligraphy, where you can learn Tao calligraphy. So it's personalized to kind of where you're personally drawn and where your strengths lie. And then you can, if you achieve mastery in that, you can go on to some of the others. One of them is Tao science, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. And that's uh, like a clear omniscience, where you have a sense of how everything is related. And just by knowing that and helping to change, you can change what's negative to positive. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Okay, Vicki, I'm going to rely on you because from my cell phone, I can't see that.
I'm not seeing any hands, or anyone put anything in the chat. Diane, do you?
No, I don't see anything here. We lost share.
Okay. All right. How was that for you, Diane?
Um, Interesting.
Okay.
I'm having, I have the problem that you spoke of earlier. I have a cat sitting next to me who was
Okay.
who was interfering with things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely love this energy, for sure.
Yes,
You might want to take
like,
a little bit of water in um, as well, because that would be a good thing to do. Okay, so speaking of water, I had asked everyone present to have some water in something that can be covered, not a lot of it, maybe about 12 ounces, and also have a second glass. It can be quite small, like a shot glass, or it can be a regular sized clean glass that you're going to put a tiny bit of the water into a little later on in our time together. Okay. All right. So one of the things that my history has led me to study is how emotions affect us. They affect our physical body, and that's the study of SHEN therapy. In studying SHEN therapy, there's a science behind how healing works, which I sensed, but I didn't have any kind of a scientific background, or I didn't know how to understand it. SHEN therapy explains it very practically about how our bodies react to pain, basically by contracting. And Russ goes into that so beautifully and demonstrates the shape that it takes, a toroidal shape, and how when we experience pain, which can be physical pain, which doesn't need any explanation, emotional pain, uh, which doesn't need much of an explanation, but painful emotions such as grief or fear. Now, anger is in its own category. The painful emotions usually cause contraction. Anger does the opposite. It's a very expansive, it fills the room. But what it does is it prevents you from releasing the deeper emotion that caused the anger, the contraction. So our expansion, for example, some parents, one of their one of their children goes missing, and they're frantic with fear and worry what could have happened to them. And the child shows up and is, how could you do this to me? It's not, the anger comes up first in many cases, not in all cases. So following my understanding of what can happen on the SHEN table and seeing all of the releases and the transformations, I was looking for something that people could do when they're not on the table, because they kept coming back, which is great for business. And we would go deeper and deeper, and they would get to the root cause and release it. And then other things would trigger them. And so they'd come back occasionally. And each time they came back, it was cumulative. They would do better. But I was looking for something that would really strengthen their personal growth and help them become more enlightened. And I was led in meditation to move from San Diego to Vancouver, Washington, minding my own business and meditation. I heard time to move to Washington State. And what? I'm in San Diego, paradise. But my mother was here, and it turned out that the timing was perfect. She was having vision difficulties, and I was able to be of service to her. And then I ended up by being her caregiver until she passed away. So that was good. But then I said, okay, now what? Where do I move? And it was stay where you are. And that's when in working with the Tao community that was here and practicing Master Sha's, some of his exercises, I began to think, now, can this enhance my practice of Shen? And then Dr. Rulin Shu moved into the entire world. Rulin moved to Portland, which is where I'm living in Washington State. It's literally a suburb of Portland. It's just across the Columbia River in Vancouver, Washington. And Vicki, how are we doing with putting up a single slide? And this would be the woman in blue. Can we do that? And it would be of great help if we could. If not, I'm used to improvising. How are we doing? Have we figured out how to isolate a single picture?
We're working on it here. I'm so sorry, everyone.
That's okay. I sent it to you a little late and didn't have the technology to isolate it and put it into a PowerPoint to make it easier. So if you can, great. If you can't, I'll move to improvisation, and I actually have books nearby here. Okay, wonderful. All right, so that's Rulin. Rulin is an amazing person. She has her PhD in quantum physics. And she was working on the grand unification theory, which is considered the holy grail in physics. It's a formula that mathematically explains how everything is related. So Einstein had solved the relationship of light and matter. Became very famous for that. He was working trying to solve the grand unification theory, but didn't solve it. Stephen Hawking also worked on it, didn't solve it. That's my knowledge of physicists. There are a lot of people, as I said, it was considered the holy grail. And she worked on it for a while, did some advanced work at Harvard, still didn't solve it. She moved to Hawaii and invented a formula called calcium, which is a powder that you can take internally, helps your brain. Forgot to mention, in that car accident that happened, I lost my eidetic memory. I lost my photographic memory. I could kind of see blurrily a page, but I couldn't read it. I had a lot of memory problems from that accident. Taking her calcium, it's coming back. So you can take it internally. You can mix it with beauty products, put it on your skin. She became a multimillionaire with that formula and kind of left the science behind. She had a lot of Yeah, right there. She had a lot of adventures in Hawaii, and one of which was she wrote this particular book. So we'll save you struggling with the books, I think. It's called Divine Love, and it was a channeled book. So she simply wrote down what the divine had to say, and it's available on Amazon. But it's the divine talking about imagining. My beloved child, before you start your journey of love, first open your soul, heart, and mind and body to know this one truth. You are the inheritor of the whole cosmos. You are loved, protected, and supported by the whole cosmos. And so the whole book is talks about some of her experiences in Hawaii and also some of the messages of the divine. At some point in the middle of the writing of this book, she met Master Sha. And she was in this incredible mansion that she describes in quite detail, right on the shore. And he gave her a phone call and said, leave that house immediately, right now. There's a big wave coming. And she grabbed her 2 dogs and nothing else and fled. And then came back to find that a tsunami had completely leveled the house, had leveled all her possessions, had leveled everything. But there was a copy of the I Ching and a couple soggy notes from the grand unification theory. And she got that she was supposed to keep working on it. So she and Master Sha together wrote this particular book called Tao Science. If you can read books that are, my word is heavy, so I read a paragraph or 2, put it down, come back weeks later, read a little bit more. At this point, I'm reading it with a group of 5 people, 4 people plus me. And we are part of Master Rulin's Tao Science team for biofield and body workers. So we are developing the information in here to help people who work physically with the body, like massage therapists, and biofield therapists, like SHEN therapists and Reiki practitioners, how to incorporate Tao science into their practice. We're about a year away from launching, and we haven't even started the book that we're taking notes on what to do. She has several other teams. There's one of physicians, and there's another one of acupuncturists, and another one of chiropractors, another one of psychologists. So each of those teams are looking at how to bring science into the medical field. In the meantime, she is going to physics conferences all over the world and introducing her theory and the mathematics behind it, as well as how it can be used practically. So all this next year, she'll be introducing it to the world. Now, if you put up that purple picture. There we go. All right, so she's also using social media, and on Facebook, I think it's Facebook as the main platform right now. But each week, she or one of her students leads a practice in chanting this basic grand unification formula, which I'm going to go into a little bit. The actual Tao calligraphy of it is in this book. Let's see, I have it open on one page. Yeah. And then on the far side is a set of little arrows and how it goes. So this formula is in Chinese, Shen Qi Jing He Yi. In English, it's S plus E plus M equals 1. I'm going to read you just a few sentences from this book, give you a little bit of a flavor of the kind of writing that this particular book is. So every planet is a quantum field. every star, every galaxy, every universe, and each human being is a quantum field. Everyone and everything is a quantum field. To explain the grand unification, we must know another ancient sacred wisdom that is now brought to the 21st century to explain other universal truths and to help unify science and spirituality. And this is the law of Shen Qi Jing. So Jing means matter. So it's what we can see and touch. It's a table. It's a human body. It's a plant. That's Jing, matter. And everyone and everything is made up of Shen Qi Jing. So Qi means energy. So energy is what moves other things. And Shen includes the soul, the heart, and the mind. Okay. Now, Shen is information, as I mentioned. Those three aspects of soul, heart, and mind contain information which can be negative or positive. So the soul is the content, the warehouse, the storage of all the information that is. And we have two kinds of souls, a Yuan Shen and a Shu Shen. The Yuan Shen is the universal soul, the one that incarnates with us through all the lifetimes and is an aspect, and this is me paraphrasing, is an aspect of Tao, of God. Okay. The Shu Shen forms in the moment of conception, and it is the what we think of as our consciousness, and it's our awakened. It's the consciousness that we have that that judges. Part of it is ego, the negative information can hold positive information, but it is for this particular body. Whatever we learn is going to carry into the next lifetime or the next state of existence. So that's soul. The heart is the receiver of information. The heart doesn't really judge, it just feels. So it receives information which could be negative or it could be positive. And the mind processes that information. When the heart is very wounded, and particularly in Western society, when a lot of our culture focuses on mind, that the mind can kind of hijack and take over and be the captain of our existence. And the mind will judge, and am I safe here? Am I not safe here? Western psychology has split it down to parts of our mind that's subconscious or unconscious and parts of it that's conscious and so forth. So, okay, that's a sampling of Tao science. And again, all of these books are available on Amazon. Okay, so one of the things, if you, my email will be up a little bit later on. You can always go back and look at this part. But my email is shenTherapy@gmail.com, all one word, Shen Therapy. And if you send me your email, I'm happy to send you the links and such for all the information that I'm giving you now. I'll also send a PDF of it to Diane, and if she would be kind enough, maybe she can send it out to the people who are here or to the whole mailing list. Thank you. It's enough about that. Okay. Next part about Tao science. And that Dr. Rulin gives a general philosophical talk every Tuesday on Facebook, which can then be accessed. Doesn't have to be live. The chanting, though, is not recorded, and it's both of those are open to everyone. And in the Tuesday on Facebook, you can ask questions. I don't remember the exact time, and I'm in Washington State, so I'm on the Pacific Coast, but I can send that information to you. And also, if you'd like to be on my mailing list, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm on her publicity team. So as she schedules different places around the world where she'll be, I can let you know about that. So there's a lot of her her speaking and her healing demonstrations on YouTube as well. Okay, any questions so far? Any other questions or wise remarks? Okay. All right. So the next part is the talk about flower essences. So if you would, within arm's reach, those 2 bottles of water, if you haven't done that, perfect, Vicki. If you haven't got the water all just yet, please go and do so now. And I'm going to invite your attention to the flower that Vicki has put up on the screen. And let yourself just kind of notice, call it looking with soft eyes and a soft belly. And just see what your impressions of this flower is, as you responded in a particular way. As you look at the flower, how does that color appeal or affect you? How does the shape appeal or affect you? I'm going to show it head on in a moment. And I'll be talking about this flower and some of its qualities. So one of the things that happened to me as I was studying, I had the great fortune of studying with Julie Murray, as well as the Flower Essence Society. Bach had long passed away before I was born, but Julie's mother was Nicky Murray. And Nicky Murray was the assistant to Nora Weeks, who was Bach's assistant. So that was as close as I could get to studying with Bach, who invented the Bach flowers. This particular flower is not a Bach flower. It is one of the, there are several essence companies that will work with it, but this is one that I've worked with that was produced by the FES. And I have in my office, lost track, I think it's about 400 or 500 flower essences. The FES has a line of quintessentials, 103. The Bach flowers are 32. I work with the South African flowers, the Australian flowers. There are several companies within the United States that I'm blanking out the names of, but you can get flower essences. Now, interestingly enough, the flowers, I remember working with one client early on, and she was taking walnut, which is a Bach flower remedy that helps people adjust to changes within themselves, within their environment. It's often given to animals when they're moved from one home to the other to help them kind of adjust. And she wasn't getting the results I was expecting. I just tabled that on to my little compartment that says it's a puzzlement. We'll find out the answer sometime later. So when I went to the Flower Essence Society, I shared that story with Richard, who's the co-founder, and he laughed. He said he's heard that story lots of times. She was taking the Bach flowers that are sold in pharmacies. They have a kind of a vertical bottle, usually with a pink cap, but they say Ellenbach, E-L-L-O-N, Bach on them. And they're produced by a homeopathic company. So when Bach died, he sold his estate, he divided it. His sister got half, and Nora Weeks, his assistant, got half. So Nora and her 2 students, Julie and Barnard, who's written some amazing books, and Nicky Murray, continued to make the flowers the way that Bach did, which was in commune with the plant itself, with the way the conditions were right. If it was stormy or if they were stormy, they didn't make the essences. They learned how to go to the heaven of the plant and speak with the grandmother of the plant and explain what they wanted. And so they were working co-creation essentially. Okay, whereas Bach's sister sold her rights to a homeopathic company who made them mechanically. And so Richard said that whenever people were taking them and they weren't working, if they switched them over to Julian Barnard's line in the United States. It's called Herbal. I'll walk across the room and get one. Then they got the results that they were expecting. So that should give enough time for everybody to have their water. Vicki, if you'd show the next slide. Okay, that can be made a little bit larger. So let yourself look at this flower. It's the same flower, but we're looking head on down. Notice its shape and notice those stamens. And see what kind of, how do you respond? What do you think? What do you feel when you look at that? Paracelsus talked about the doctrine of signatures, and that was part of the early flower essence and actually herbal medicine. It was how the flower or how the fruit looked, they thought might affect a part of the body or a part of the psyche that needed healing. Okay, so would anybody, preferably if you don't know which flower this is, which plant that is, would a couple people of you share your impressions from just looking at this flower? What do you feel when you look at the color or the shape? That's where it began to move a second ago. Yes, Craig.
I'll go. I'm Craig.
Yes, please.
I feel kind of like it's almost enchanting. There's a fear of it and yet a pulling into it. Like
nice.
Those things that are coming out, I don't know, are they spores? Are they going to, kind of like in Star Trek, do something to me? They're going to, but yet I also feel like it wants to turn and move. So that's what I'm getting.
You're picking up very much on the solar qualities, the sun qualities that are in this particular plant. Vicki, there's a 2.5-minute video that I think I sent you the link for. Maybe I didn't. I was debating whether to send it or not. I'll put it in the PDF. And that is somebody who is a staff member at the Flower Essence Society, describing it in very detail. Okay, show one more slide, please. That one without the label. Or actually, we can go right on to the, yeah. Now, this is an older slide, so the color is a bit faded. But that's another, notice the star shape. It almost looks like the Victorian man, how everything is in balance. And this is St. John's wort. So if you show that next slide, Vicki, that has the Latin name. Made a couple of notes that I wanted to mention about this. This is a flower that's used both in Western medicine, herbal medicine. Now, the thing about flower essences is they don't use physical property. They're entirely vibrational. So if you analyze the water, it's going to come out as water, although it's usually sold with a fixative like brandy or some kind of an alcohol, sometimes like an apple cider vinegar. I found out that Bach originally didn't use any kind of fixative. He just used mother stock that he would dilute with more water. And so when you make a flower essence, that one mother potion can serve thousands of people. It doesn't destroy the plant, whereas if you're using the herbs or the root or something like that, you're literally grinding up and using physical matter.
If I can jump in real quick, that's interesting because that's how homeopathy works. They take a tincture and they make a tincture with an alcohol medium, and then it gets diluted, and the more it's diluted, the more energy it has. And like you just said, traditional medicine calls it voodoo because there's nothing at the matter level, but yet I heard that at the quantum level, or if you look at an electronic microscope, you see the field has changed.
Didn't realize you could see it with an electron microscope, but you're right on with quantum physics, and Dr. Wu Lin's formula and studying with her in depth, which I'm still in the midst of doing, is explaining why to me. I can't yet replicate speaking it, but I know internally, and that internal knowledge enables me to work, explain how I can work the way I can work. So what we're about to do is something that I discovered a couple of years ago. And if you think back to that empowerment that the Ascended Master, Lord Hilarion, gave me about being able to put healing into water, I was taking a hike in a field, and I felt the need for a particular flower essence. And they were all at home. I don't go hiking with a backpack of 103 essences, which is what I was working with at the time. So I went into meditation, and the flower itself came to me, and I realized I knew the essence of the flower, the holy prototype, the diva, the actual template. And these are all human terms to describe an experience that was a gestalt in a way. And so I took my water and I connected the way I had been taught by Lord Hilarion, and I asked the flower to come into the water, and I drank it and I felt the effect. And it was years later before I even tried that. It was during COVID. And here I am, a person who makes her living with hands-on somatic, very effective therapy, and nobody could come for hands-on work. We were all in isolation. And so I prayed. I said, what do you want me to do? And I got instructions on how to work remotely, but it didn't make any sense until I started to study with Dr. Rulin, and then I was able to be very effective. So what we're going to do, I want to read you just a little bit about St. John's wort. Now, it's kind of interesting. The exaltation of this is usually during the summer solstice. And here we are about to have a winter solstice. St. John's wort captures, that's maybe the wrong word, but it receives and retains enormous amount of light. And there's a lot of different aspects of light, and its light is a very solar, active kind of a light. However, if you examine the leaves, and I didn't bring a close-up of the leaves, they have little white dots and little black dots. Even the leaves absorb. You won't be able to quite see it on that photo again. So I wish you could. On the short video, which I didn't send a link to, there is a close-up of the leaves. And I'll put the link to that video, as well as a little more talk about St. John's wort on the PDF that I'm going to send out. Notes on that. Yeah. One moment, please. Okay. All right, so currently, St. John's wort is promoted for depression, and menopausal symptoms, for ADHD, for any kind of exaggerated, again, this is from a medical website, exaggerated anxiety about physical symptoms like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, other conditions. Research suggests that St. John's wort works in a similar way to standard antidepressant medication by increasing the activity of brain chemicals such as serotonin and noradrenaline that are thought to play an important part in regulating our mood. In some cases, St. John's wort might be just as effective as some antidepressant drugs to treat mild and even moderate depression.
Yep.
So if we look at the St. John's wort, you see how wide open the petals are and the stamens. And what they're doing is they're reaching up to maximum light, which could very much explain both fear and excitement. Because bringing in more light, part of us knows it's going to heal us. And part of us knows that part of the healing is experiencing things that might be blocked or suppressed. Because at the time that we experienced them, we were younger, didn't have the tools that we have now. So that's one of the things we find on the SHEN table is the fears which feel so real and have caused us to behave a certain way. Some of them might be paper tigers from back when we were young and overwhelmed. Some of them are not paper tigers. I've worked with war survivors and people have survived just all sorts of horrors. But the recognition on some level that allowing light is going to move us and elevate us, that's a for sure. Okay. So it can be used for seasonal affect disorder and so forth, both in the homeopathic, in the physical, and in the Western medicine. Okay. So, and by the way, wort, W-O-R-T, is an Old English word that means herb. So this was called St. John's herb back in the medieval times. All right. So if you don't want to participate, if you are not feeling that it's the right time to receive an excess of light, you don't have to do this. You can toss the water afterwards or feed it to some plants. But remember that earlier exercise we did with the Da-I calligraphy and a particular blockage or an area we wanted to improve. And this is the time where we can ask the St. John's wort to help us with that. Okay. So first thing I'd like you to do is to uncap your water, pour a tiny bit, like a sip's worth, less than a shot glass. And don't drink it just yet. I'm going to describe the way that I recommend drinking it. We're going to try the water just as it is first. Right, so if everybody would pour themselves a little bit of water. Okay. Now in that little sample of water, I'm going to ask you to take it into your mouth, but not to swallow. So I'd like you to feel the texture of it, the taste of it, any sensations that you get. Just hold it in your mouth for like 30 seconds or so, and notice what you notice about everything about this particular water. And then when you swallow it, just notice what it feels like going down and how far down your torso you can feel the water. Okay, excellent. All right, and now, Vicki, if you back up a slide or so and show those two slides looking head on in that bright yellow color. Yeah, so the slide with the name on it is, to me, the one I'd like to meditate shape-wise, but this one, to me, really imbues and says the color and has a stronger essence of what I feel St. John's wort is. So I'd like you to invite you to feel your feet on the floor. And just as we did with the Tao calligraphy, let yourself begin to breathe. And what you're going to do is ask your eyes to soft focus and see if you can feel and see with your belly and kind of notice the essence of this plant. So while you do that, I'm going to go in and connect with the flower itself, the plant itself, and ask it to imbue itself into your water. So this it won't take long, but it'll take a minute or so. Right. So now if you would pour another sample of the water from the larger bottle into the little glass and take some into your mouth. And as before, just hold it for a moment and see if there's anything different about its taste or its texture. And then after about 30 seconds or so, swallow it and notice what it feels like going down and how far down into your torso you can feel it. Allow any sensations, notice them. Okay, was it different for anyone? What do you notice about the first time and what do you notice about the second time?
Well, I guess I'll go again.
Thank you, Craig.
The water had more flavor.
Yes.
And this is bottled, purified water. And the second time it was,
Just kidding.
it kind of had an absence. It was more neutral.
Huh.
And then when I went down, I felt it both times go down, but I felt this one get all the way to the belly.
Nice.
The other one I
Very
felt
nice.
going pretty far down, but this one I actually felt it going to my stomach and go, oh,
Interesting, huh?
that's what I experienced.
Excellent. Kitty said it felt softer. Both of what you're describing. Now, this is the fifth time that I've done this with a group rather than a single person when I was doing a remote conference. And that's a lot of the people report the same thing that you did. That goes down much further. It felt softer. There was a change in the texture. Jason, this is a St. John's wort. And if Vicky would put on the slide, the Latin name is on there. This is the flower essence that I connect with is how it grows in the wild, but this is also cultivated. You can buy it as a hedge, you can grow them, but there are some caveats if you are, it's not entirely edible, it can have some side effects. And that's the other thing about the flower essences, it's the essence of the plant. The plant knows it's heaven. It knows what's powerful. Sorry, I got a text across my screen. When I was in the midst of becoming able to be in crowds again, I couldn't for a while. And I took aconate, which is also known as wolfsbane or monk's hood. It's a virulent poison. You even have to be careful if you are touching it because it can get through a cut on the skin. However, as an essence, it's entirely harmless. So is hemlock, so is a lot of poisonous plants because their essence is information. It's experience. And so the essence of monk's hood, literally, it was like wearing a biofield wetsuit. I could even hug strangers, and I couldn't before, until the reasons whereby I needed it became clear, and then I didn't need it anymore. So St. John's wort, taken as a flower essence, no side effects. As a matter of fact, you can take any of the essences. If they don't work, it just meant you took the wrong one for your condition. I will put a caveat on that. I worked with a classical musician, and we worked out a sampling of, I don't remember, 12 or 24 little bottles. And I was teaching him how to use that. And he called me up one day. He said, I'm agitated. I just can't stop. What's going on? I said, tell me what you took. And he said, I took a sample of all of them, put them in water the way you told me to, and I drank them. And I said to him, well, you're a classical musician. What if every instrument began to play its own tune at the same time? And he said, oh my God, it's exactly what it feels like. So there's an art to combining the essences if you're looking to heal a particular condition. And generally, there's not a lot put into a formula. Sometimes the most powerful is one single one or two or three that might support it.
Right, just like homeopathic.
just like homeopathy. Only with homeopathy, it will prove if you take the wrong dosage, you'll start to get symptoms. With
And
here,
that's
the
what
condition. Pardon?
I was going to say, how in 1981, I was seeing a therapist and I was having all these physical problems, and traditional medicine had nothing. So she said, I'm going to send you to a homeopathist. I never even heard of such a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
he gave me a remedy, which was phosphorus.
Okay.
And he didn't tell me anything. He said, I'm not telling you anything because I don't want a
Good.
placebo effect. And it felt like my
Yes.
entire intestinal tract was on fire. So I didn't know.
Oh,
So I went to the emergency room, missed a whole week of work.
wow.
And I called him, and so he gave me the antidote. And then, like that, it was completely gone.
Yes.
So I've been doing this for 42 years. And the
Wow.
two are very much in alignment because the same thing with homeopathy, the toxicity is removed, we get to the basic resonance energy of the
Yes.
essence of whether it's a flower or a mineral or whatever, and the
Mm-hmm.
toxicity is gone. But if it's the wrong remedy, it's the law of similars. You will get the very thing it's supposed to heal. I've experienced
Exactly.
that too.
Exactly. And it was the Ascended Masters who steered me into the flowers.
Yeah,
And again, there is no straw, no side. If it doesn't work, if then
doesn't
it's the
work.
wrong one. Exactly. Yes, yes. Thank you for that. It's you nailed it when you talked about the resonance and vibration.
Yeah,
That's a real key to precipitating whatever needs to be healed. Yeah.
cool.
All right. Anybody else notice anything from between the first and the second? Anybody feel anything particularly from taking the water that had the essence in it? I'm looking forward to meeting people. It's okay if you felt nothing.
Ayleyaell, I have
Yes.
an interesting sensation. When I look at the picture of St. John's Wort, I feel
Mhm.
my sensitivity in my skin.
Ah,
Hmm.
is it like an itchiness,
No,
or just it's okay? Can you describe that sensation a little more? And if you can't, that's okay. It's mostly important that you notice everything about it, like
it,
where, just your shoulders, or and how far down?
I was feeling in my arms mostly
Mm-hmm.
in here, and it was um, it was like the nerve endings were being sensitized
Ah,
or or sensitive. That just something to do with nerves.
well, it's a little deeper than that. You and I can talk privately about that. But you're a flutist. It comes not only through your breath, but through your fingers, that music. And
Mhm.
what would happen if you added more light to your music and to the way you reached people? What do you suppose might happen? Because that's the real gift from St. John's Wort. It adds light to what you focused on. And you might think back to the meditation as to what came up for you as something to work with. And is there a relationship between adding more light and more energy, more information? That was one thing I didn't talk much about, that information can be positive or negative. It can be, I don't want to go too far into that. I think we each have a feeling for things that are negative and things that are positive. But
Uh,
adding more light brings definitely more positive energy in, especially connecting with light. Yes, Diane?
Sarah has added a note here. She said, I have materia medica, which I find fascinating. I haven't
Hmm.
heard of anyone using one to understand homeopathic remedies recently. Is it still in general use?
So Diane, I can answer that. I was just going to type it, it'd be quicker. So Sarah, yeah, when I started with Dr. Joel Shepard, he's the Center for Integration and Healing out in Lombard. He is a classically trained homeopathist, one of the few in the Midwest. He's kind of considered the go-to person. And that's what they've been using for, it's been around for a long time, and it takes all the different essences and explains, looking at the different parts, physical, emotional, mental. And I find though that if I try to interpret it, it's like it's a little knowledge is dangerous. And so it's better for me to rely on Dr. Shepard or Simona, who works with him at the College of Chiropractic in Lombard, because they are the experts. So it's a medical text. So yes, people do use it, but it's, I think, better used by someone who's really versed in the field, like you're talking about, Ms. Kinder, than just trying to do it yourself, because you can really mess up.
I was in Whole Foods in Deerfield yesterday to pick up a couple of homeopathic vials, the French ones, and the woman in charge there said that Whole Foods is phasing out all the homeopathic essences of or remedies that they have in their stores. Does anybody know anything about that?
I don't, but that's but one place that you can get them. When I saw Dr. Shepard in 1981, he didn't have good office hours, so I went to Mer's Apothecary in Lincoln Square here in Chicago.
Right. Yeah, I've been there.
And I introduced Dr. Shepard to the owner, Abdul. And so Abdul is now the Midwest regional distributor for 40 some years for Born.
Oh,
And they
okay.
carry everything. And there are some other homeopathic companies they also deal with. One out of Texas called OMH. So I did not heard that about Whole Food, because that to me was the go-to. The vitamin shopping also carries the Born remedies.
Yeah, Walsh's on Central Street in Evanston does too.
Right. So you can, and Amazon also carries them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
shocking to me that they wouldn't carry them.
Yeah, I came home and ordered them on Amazon. The ones I wanted, I was afraid maybe there was something with Boyron. Are they phasing out? Are they less?
Not that I'm aware of.
I hope not.
Well, it might be time to put together a writing in campaign to Whole Foods. Now, Whole Foods and Amazon have some sort of affiliation.
Oh, they own it.
That's
Whole Foods is owned by Amazon.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So definitely they might be open to a grassroots campaign. When I was in San Diego, the co-ops and the privately owned health food stores all carried both the Bach flowers, the FES flowers, and homeopathic remedies. And that's still the case in the natural foods that we have up here in Washington State.
What is the name of the, you said that the Bach flowers with the little red tips are not prepared the way Dr. Bach did?
They're called Ellenbach, ELLON. That's the name of the homeopathic company that Bach's sister sold them to, and they have Bach's name on them as well. I think it's his signature.
Right, but what's the one you said that prepares them the way they originally were?
One moment. Okay. I just had to start to walk towards them. They're called Healing Herbs, and the FES, the Flower Essence Society, distributes them. You can get them directly from the Flower Essence Society. There's a woman in New Mexico that is a distributor, and she very frequently has sales and will ship them. And let me make a note. Her name is Mindy Waters.
Mindy should contact, excuse me, Mer's Apothecary, because they have been in business since 1875, and they're a German pharmacy, and they've been carrying all these things for a long time.
I was in Germany. Yeah, Bachblüten, they call them, Blüten for flowers. What I'll do, as I said, I'm preparing a PDF with the books that I've shown, with the videos, so you can watch them in the resolution that's easiest for you, and so forth. So again, my email, I'll be putting it up, is shentherapy@gmail.com. And just make a note, Chicago or IANDS, so I'll know. And it'll take me a couple of days, probably middle of next week. I'll be able to send that out.
We are not IANDS, we are Chicago IANDS,
Oh, okay.
for the
Okay.
clarification.
Okay, and then Ben asked something. I'll send you a link in that PDF to the website that will talk more about them. They're available only online. She had distributors at one point and affiliates, and decided to just kind of merge everything back. It comes in a powder, and the powder tastes like clean dirt, essentially, but the effects of it are amazing. You can stuff the powder into a little capsule. She used to do that and sell that as well. But again, people had different requirements for the capsules. So you can buy capsules from a pharmacy and take it internally that way. And there's a lot of different uses and how to use it on that website. So I'll send you the link to that.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions? Diane or Vicky?
I don't
Yeah.
see any.
Sorry, say again, please.
Diane, you'll have to take care.
I don't see any more here.
You're welcome, Ben. When somebody first writes it, it will flash briefly and then it disappears because I'm not working from a computer at the moment. Okay, well, if you put up that one, you'll have to kind of make that a little bit bigger, but I can read it because I have it here on my phone. This is something that became, it's a quote from Gary Zukov. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is really the realization of that has been the reason why I'm doing the work that I do. That emotions are teachers. They're not bad. They're not good. In science, we use the word negative simply to describe something that's contractive and chaotic, and positive to describe something that is expansive. So whenever we're experiencing an emotion, it either feels good or it doesn't. If it doesn't feel good, it's there to teach you something, that you're feeling devalued or you're shy or you're ashamed. And it's something that needs healing. It's available for healing. It becomes a teacher. And so in a sense, not a sense, actually, just as Gary says here, every emotion brings something good. He calls it good news. And that's true for the ones that start off as painful. If we have the opportunity to sit down and have lunch or tea someday, I could give you example after example from my own experience on the table, as well as I did almost over 1,000 clients before I got my certification, and I just stopped counting after that. So I can say well over 1,000 clients. I got my certification in 2000. So it's been 23 years. I don't know how many people I've seen, but that has been true for everybody. It really has been true. All right, if you put up the next one, please, and that one we'll leave on. And this is something that Russ and I realized we have to do. I'm not sure if you can read it. Maybe you can screenshot it and pull that back up. Okay, and oh, I see where it is. It's not in that folder.
You could include that on the PDF.
Yeah, I'll put it on the PDF.
That
It
would
says
be great.
basically,
It's all in one place.
yeah, it says basically imagine healing emotional pain and trauma with the energy, the chi from your hands. Now,
Right.
you can heal emotional pain and trauma with chi from anything that supplies chi. Chi is energy. So interactions, talking, dancing, Tao calligraphy, SHEN, Russ and I are calling the gold standard. It's like the e-ticket in Disneyland. If folks remember that, it was the e-ticket puts you on the fastest, in a sense, sometimes the most exciting rides. And so it says under that, we've all been affected by the pandemic, as well as our own personal history and current events. And so it's time to connect and heal what is within us, and that's going to change the world around us. So a phrase that I love that Dr. Shaw says quite often is, I have the power to heal myself. You can put in different words than power. He uses the word power. I have the ability or the capacity. So I have the power to heal myself. You have the power to heal yourself. And together, we have the power to heal the world. And on that particular note, that's what Russ and I are dedicating 2024 to doing, to traveling different places in the country, giving people individual SHEN sessions, and then having a week-long workshop, which is the first step to training a new practitioner. There's a few more steps to actually being certified. It takes about 2 years to be certified. But in that workshop, you get a lot of personal growth. You're getting somewhere between 16 and 20 SHEN sessions. You're getting the theory of how it works. It's really life-changing. Ideally, in a world where I am extremely wealthy, I would rent a big retreat center, still charge a low fee, and just have it be an amazing retreat of sensations. In the practical world, anywhere minimum of 6 people, but better 8 or 10. So between 3 and 5 massage tables, a space that's private, that has enough room to set up those 3 to 5 tables where we can walk around each one of them in case we want to work at the head or the feet or so forth. Anybody is welcome because anybody can learn how to use the chi in their hands. And so our goal is to train more SHEN therapists. And then in a few years from now, we'll be working with the people we've trained and all of the other body workers on how to incorporate and teach their clients and themselves and to change their lives by working with vibration and resonance and understanding the grand unification theory. So that concludes my talk. My gosh, I'm sort of right on time. If you put up the final slide, please. The wish for you is that peace begins within you, begins in the heart, which is the receiver of the information. And that can spread around through the whole world. And so I and all of my team, seen and I can't say unseen, let's say seen and felt, wish you a really happy holidays. And in the 2 minutes we have left, if there's anything you'd like to say or request, I'm open. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to travel back through my history and kind of see how what became so important to me has evolved to where it has. I'm also available for remote work, although I hope to come to the Chicago area in person next year and see some of you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ayleyaell. It's been wonderful having you here and hearing all of your good advice and observations and information. It's terrific. And I would say, you send me the PDF, and if we send out one email a month as a rule, unless just about the things. And the best way to approach it might be to have anybody who wants it to contact me once I receive it up, then I will forward it to you because I don't have a list of who all attended this. And I don't know how to get a list. I think there must be a way, but nobody's ever.
There is a way, and I know I know the theory behind it, and that is there is a website, I'll find out what it is, but people, to get the Zoom link, instead of getting it from the email, they click on this, they register their email, and then you send a second email that has that link in it. So that's one way to get the registration. The other is I'd be happy to have that PDF attached to the announcement for next month. Maybe
Yeah,
that can be,
I can
That'd
probably,
be great.
I could do that.
and that'll reach everybody.
Yeah.
Basically, I checked in with those who had higher authority than I did, that the healing that we did will work at least once. Well, not at least, it will work once for everybody. So perpetually people can go for the first time and do all of these exercises and get their own sensations. You might even make that a practicum, that each month, the month before, will contain information. Because again, for me, to really know more about SHEN therapy is to go back and listen to the November presentation that Russ did. And I'll make sure in the PDF, I'm going to send it to my mailing list as well, but I'll put down donations appreciated, suggested donation is, because I so appreciate your organization and just how much love and thoughtfulness and how much good and light, no pun intended, you're putting into the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Clara, love you too.
Yes, love you too.
All right, so good night for now. Happy holidays. Well, good night for where you are. For me, it's 2 p.m.
Thank you. Namaste.
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 Thank you so much, Craig.
You're welcome.
We'll
All
see
right,
you all
bye.
next month on the second Saturday at 2:00 with Jean Steen. I think you
Oh,
also find that interesting, and that will be a nice follow-up to what we've had from you and Russ on SHEN therapy.
you're welcome. Thanks again. So,
Namaste.
Feliz Navidad. Bye for now.
Bye.